Hey there everybody. I'm here to explain how I took the stock radio from my 2007 GTI and retrofitted an RCD340 radio. The process of replacing the radio itself is not very difficult at all. There are plenty of tutorials and videos out here on YouTube that will teach you how to replace the radio itself. But once you get the device in place is when you can really start diagnosing whether or not it's going to work properly with your certain year of Volkswagen GTI. What's funny is that even though the radio itself is plug and play, they will state in a lot of the sales listings you'll see that you have to code the radio and possibly replace a CAN gateway along with some other complicated bits that might not necessarily be as apparent to the person buying the radio. Now, a lot of the data being presented in this video was taken from forums like VW Vortex and a couple of other GTI-specific websites, so feel free to reference the links that I'll provide in the description if you want to take a look at the source material. Now, for my car, I did need a CAN gateway, and I'm showing that here. I quickly peeled the sticker off to see whether or not it was actually a Volkswagen product, and from what I could tell, it was genuine. But obviously it's probably an international model, so keep that in mind when you're installing it into your car. And since my GTI is an Autobahn trim, it does have steering wheel controls, so I had to buy a harness for that as well. If you buy this radio from an international seller, they will most likely include a cable to connect a rear view camera and a dual to single radio antenna connector, which you will most probably need. And obviously for coding the gateway and the radio, you will need some kind of Volkswagen scan tool, whether it be VCDS, VAGCOM, or Obd2, which is what I'm using in this video. Alright everybody, I just pulled the radio out, and you can see back here, the only connectors that are connected are this quad lock connector, you can see that there. And then you can see the dual FACRA connectors, I believe is what they're called. And we do have a converter that's going to take those two and convert them into a single. I know that the Sirius XM module, I believe, is below the driver or passenger seat. So thankfully we don't have to worry about that here when we're installing this radio. And if you take a look here, there's the data for the original radio that I have. Obviously it's the Premium 7 module. I'm going to try the caveman method, which is basically just taking these out using the converter and plugging it back in, and we'll see what that does to our battery here. Hey everybody, so I've got the new radio in the car now with the little simulator here with the quad lock extender connected into the new radio, and then this dual FACRA is converted from the two that are in the car to a single that is plugged into the radio now. Plugged in with the key not in the ignition. As you can see, the radio still powers on. Sorry for the noise, but as you can see, the radio still powers on. Some other symptoms you can experience are like you'll hear the FM radio hissing when the car is still all the way off. That'll probably tell you that the radio is still draining your battery. So I'm going to disconnect this and I'll show you all where my CAN bus gateway is, at least in this car. So here is my steering wheel, and come down here. There are 3 T20s. I believe it's in this spot, this one, and then there's one over on that right side. And then you can basically just pull this panel down. It's only connected by these clips like here, and then there's 2 over there. The Obd2 port is right here. And then the footwell lighting is that little metal piece right there. And if you take a look closely, this is up near where the brake pedal is, kind of. You gotta come up over here. You see where this red plug is? That's the CAN gateway, I believe, on my GTI. I've heard that it can be located in a couple of different places, but I can actually see the part number in there, and it does say 1K0907530K. So it's a K revision gateway. That's the one that will require an upgrade. Before I take this CAN gateway out, there's some information that I need to back up from the old gateway. I'll show you guys how to do that. Alright everybody, so I'm in the Obd2 app now, and this is assuming that you have already plugged in the Obd2 scanner that comes with Obd2 and connected to it via Bluetooth. Instead of scanning, we're going to hit the 3 dashes here on the bottom right hand corner, and that'll pull up all of our control units. We're going to scroll down here to Gateway, which should be address number 19. As you can see, it does have a fault code. We're going to look at faults just to make sure. And as we can see, the only fault is the radio showing no signal or communication. here in the info tab, you can also take a look at what gateway revision you have, and that will tell you whether or not you actually need to upgrade the CAN gateway or not. As you can see here, the software number will show the revision at the end. As you can see, mine is K. So here, in order to move over to the new gateway, we're going to have to back this module up. So we're going to scroll all the way down to backup, and we'll hit backup there. And I'm just going to name the backup K revision because I know that my gateway is the K revision, and we can hit start. And there we go. Backup is pretty quick for this. An additional thing that you can do, if you feel like the backup isn't something that you can fully trust, is that you can go into long coding on the gateway itself. It's the fourth entry here. And you can see everything that your gateway currently has in each of the long coding bytes. Of my strategy was I actually turned upside down in the seat and then leaned underneath the steering column to get to it. But you could also do it by leaning forward with the driver's door open. I did do that for a bit, but I got tired of it, so I ended up just doing the reverse seat thing, and that actually worked out pretty well. So okay, so I finally got the old CAN gateway out. As you can see, the old one is on the left here, and that's the part number for the one that comes on mine. It's a 2007 Volkswagen GTI with the Premium 7 head unit. My guess is any other head unit in this year also came with this certain revision. I'm going to plug this new one in, and I'll see you back in Obd11 to try to program it. When you first go into Obd11 with a new gateway, you're going to see a bunch of errors like this. Please don't be alarmed by that. I was freaking out when I first plugged in the new gateway and I was like, what's going on with all my stuff? Don't worry about it. This is completely normal. We're going to go ahead and show you the first couple of things that we have to do when you put in a new gateway into a car like this. So check your address 19 like before and go to the info tab. Just make sure that your software and hardware numbers match up to what is on the sticker of the gateway you put in the car. And in the faults section, you will see a control module incorrectly coded error. That error should go away by the time you're done coding the gateway. And finally, in the long coding section of the gateway, you will see that the long coding is very different. The coding that I have here is 350000, which is actually completely normal for a GTI. This is basically the new model of long coding that Volkswagen uses in their newer gateways for Mark 6s and Mark 7s, I believe. So we'll go ahead and move on to actually coding the gateway here after I finally collected my bearings and stopped freaking out. Okay, so I believe I figured out what to do. If you saw the previous clip in Obd11, we scrolled through the long coding of the gateway, the entry 19 that you see here in the middle. Now, basically what I'm doing here is I'm applying every component that this gateway had listed originally from the old gateway. And I did that by screenshotting every single byte value out of my old gateway. So this first byte is 7F. And this actually coincides with the installation list of the gateway. So as you can see, you have 01, 02, 03, 00, 15, 44, 55, and 22 is not installed. So everything there is installed except for the all-wheel drive, which obviously is a Golf R exclusive. So you can take that, go back into Obd11, hit this edit button. It's the little pencil down here in the control units window. And you can see that there's a gateway list coding option. And in this series of checkboxes, you will check every single box that is in the long coding of your old gateway that you copied over. The easier method of doing this is obviously just going to the installation list of the old gateway and copying the data from there. But I ended up doing the long coding option, and that's just as valid. The data is exactly the same. So after you scroll through all of these options and select everything that your old gateway had, it should code successfully. And once that's done, you'll scroll through every single one of your control units and just verify they're able to connect to it by being able to view the info tab and see faults and stuff. The one discrepancy I had in my installation list was the steering angle sender module. It was originally assigned to 00 in my CAN gateway, but in this one, it was looking for address 04 and it wasn't connecting correctly. So I just disconnected it from the installation list completely and I didn't get any additional faults. So I'll assume that that is okay. If there are any issues that crop up later, I'll document it at some point. At the end of the day, what you want is that control module incorrectly coded fault to go away. Once that does go away, you can go to the homepage of OBD11, hit scan, and then clear the faults completely and make sure that no other ones come up after an additional scan. We are going to go ahead and check on the status of our battery drain here. As you can see, the anti-theft is still working. And obviously, as you can tell, electronics on a basic level are working fine. So this is the connection to OBD11 on my 2007 Volkswagen GTI after about a week of use with the new radio. I drove the car about 2 or 3 times during that week. And as you can see, our battery voltage here on the right-hand side is 12.4 volts. The ideal voltage that you will want in most batteries is 12.6 volts, so that is not too bad. And obviously, the only other component in my case that was probably draining my battery was the driver's side door lock. That does not function correctly all the time, so it's very possible that when I lock the car and the CAN gateway sends signals to each component to put it to sleep, that the driver's side door lock could be staying awake and possibly draining the battery a little bit. But honestly, given the fact that I had left this car off for several hours at a time, more than once, I would say that's not too bad, especially the fact that the car's on currently and the fog lights are running and all the indicator lights are running as well. So I would say we're in a pretty good place there. If you wanted to be really picky, you could always run a fuse test up on the fuse box. I believe mine is fuse number 19 for the radio, and you can just check after 5 minutes of turning the car off whether or not it's drawing any current. And if it is, then you could possibly suspect parasitic draw. You could run a more thorough test, obviously, by letting the car sit for a couple hours and make sure all the units are off before you run your test. But in this case, it's not going to be too bad. I'm not going to be leaving this car sitting for over a week. I'll be driving it at least once a week. So as far as battery drain is concerned, we shouldn't have any huge issues. The second set of faults that I had to deal with were the ones with the radio. This digital radio tuner you're going to run into if you have Sirius XM originally in your car. I do have a Sirius XM tuner on mine, and you can see that it'll say the tuner isn't enabled or activated. That's just normal because this unit doesn't come with Sirius XM. We won't really be able to get around coding that, so I'm just kind of leaving that fault out for now. If you have the Volkswagen 10 speaker premium sound system in your car, you will need to change a bit in the long coding for the radio to disable treble speaker monitoring. An easy way to check whether or not you have the Volkswagen premium sound system is to see whether or not you have 3 speakers in your front doors. One will be up near the front glass, one will be near the middle of the door where the handle is, and then there will be a bass speaker down at the end of the package tray. So I ended up getting 4 treble speaker faults when I first plugged this radio in. But thankfully it's a relatively easy change in the long coding, but it did take me a long time to figure it out. This was the one piece that I don't think was documented very well on the internet. So you just have to make this one change, as you can see in the screenshot, and you should have your treble speaker faults go away. The other 2 fault codes that you see in this list are for the instrument cluster and for the rear view camera. Rear view camera makes sense for me because I did not install one, so you can't really get around that until you end up installing a rear view camera. And the instrument cluster module is another one you cannot get around unless you retrofit a newer instrument cluster into your car, which involves messing with the immobilizer, which is something I don't really want to do. But that's about it. I'll just give you a shot of the new radio and what it looks like. It definitely modernizes the feel of the car quite a bit. If you guys liked the information shown in this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think. And I will see you guys in future videos.